new elected man knew one thing. He couldn't feed us a line of bull crap. We wasn't going to take it. We wasn't going to eat it. Mm-hmm. Now, some people might have thought I was a little bit rude, but I will tell you what happened today. I had a phone call this afternoon about 5 o'clock. Gentleman said, Don, I want you to know I appreciate what you did because I just found out that some of the things he said is not true. Mm-hmm. He said, how did you know it? Well, I'll tell you how I knew it. I've been in the fight since 1988 when they started siting the Buncombe County landfill. And that's how you learn. And I want to invite you to take the next step. See, the first step was calling me the other night when you saw my show on Monday night. Mm-hmm. The second step was when you called me tonight. Now, you know what the third step's going to be?
What's that?
You getting involved.
Yeah. Because I got something else I need to bring out, too, is how come the jobs in North Carolina does not pay wages to keep people from having to rely on the government for money, and also why can't the state make these companies stop relying on temp services so much that you can't live on what they pay, and especially if you have a family and the companies won't even make you permanent.
Well, here's what's happened. With the current tax structure and requirements for insurance and everything, it's cheaper to hire temp services than it is to have someone on the payroll. That's why they do it. Now, I can tell you this. I worked in textiles for a while, and I worked in textiles when I saw textiles leaving here and going to Mexico. And I saw most of these major companies like J.P. Stevens in Greenville, South Carolina. Everybody in the plant worked for an employment agency. And guess who ran the employment agency?
Temp service.
The old plant manager. CTS out here on Mills Gap Road, this site where we got all that pollution. CTS shut down the plating operation, and guess what they did? They turned it over to some people that worked at CTS to run a private plating operation as a small-scale operation, and since it wasn't a large corporation, they didn't have to turn in the paperwork that the large company did.
Oh, isn't that something? Yeah.
Yeah. See, nobody knows this stuff, but it's plain as the nose on your face. It's plain as the nose on your face. Because the guy that's got the money, Obama can pass all the laws he wants to, and they can say, we're going to tax the millionaire or the billionaire. Well, guess what the millionaire and the billionaire are going to do? They're going to take their money and say bye-bye and go to another country. That's the problem that we have. I can tell you stories in Madison, Yancey County, when somebody was looking at coming to Yancey County that paid higher wages than those textile mills over there. Guess what they were told? The textile mill people, we went out and met them and said, you don't want to hire these people. They're good old boys, but come deer hunting season, they're not going to be at work. Come tobacco cutting time, they ain't going to be at work. Come summertime, they're going to put their garden out. They were telling companies tales to keep them from moving in here. And guess who supports stuff like that?
Makes you want to smack them upside the head.
But who supports that stuff?
Well, local government.
What organization in Asheville, North Carolina is supposed to be recruiting business?
Better Business Bureau. Chamber of Commerce.
Isn't there a chamber of something here?
What's that?
Isn't there a chamber of something here called Commerce? And didn't they get millions of dollars to build a new big headquarters downtown Asheville? And didn't the people right behind them going to do a big development in there? Then all of a sudden we find that development's now going to be multi-unit housing. And they're going to ask for tax breaks. See, that's why nobody could get ahead here. Folks don't realize in Aspen, Colorado, they have housing for the people that wait on tables. It's so expensive to live out there that you can't live out there on waitresses' salaries. So what they do is they tax people, built public housing, and have a lottery for you to get your number pulled to move into it.
Not only in Aspen.
Where else?
In Vancouver, in BC.
Vancouver, British Columbia.
And they have it in Montana, by the Tetons there, that's
the
ski
Grand
area.
Tetons in Montana.
Yeah. And they have it in Utah.
And we're going to have it in Asheville. If you keep on building the cliffs and all these big multi-million-dollar homes around here, Somebody has to sweep the floors. And folks, if you ever get out in Asheville and drive, just get out in Asheville and drive and see some of those smaller, older houses and look at what kind of tax dollars they're paying for those smaller, older houses.
So is that why what's that?
Go ahead.
Is that why North Carolina can't pay more than what we're getting, so people can afford like a house and pay their bills and keep food on the table?
You got it. You got it. And guess what? If we keep the people dependent upon the government, and the government gives them money, they keep pulling that D ticket, don't they?
You know what I heard the other day too was Donald Trump was interviewed, talking precisely about this, and he was saying that the rich, the really rich, they take their whole companies to another country.
Their whole companies.
Or they move to another state where there's no state
That's
income
it.
tax.
Thank you, sir. Got another guy trying to get in, okay?
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello? Hello, you're live on Citizen Speak. Well, they hung up. We need to call back in.
Well, and
Appreciate that guy calling in, though, because he called me
Yes.
Monday night.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a very good question.
What I want to point out too is if you run and you're an unknown, be logical, stick to your guns
Hold on.
and research. And then you can get your followers that way. If you're wishy-washy and you please everybody, you're not going to go anywhere.
In other words, if you've got a good cause, you're all right.
Yes.
Go ahead. You're live on the line. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I thought think about all those trade deals with the United States that signed the last 25, 30 years, when either manufacturing or money deals or,
You talking about the North American Free Trade Act, NAFTA?
yeah, CAFTA, NAFTA, and all that stuff, and plus the World Bank and all that stuff, and those Wall Street deals. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm beginning to think the United States is not a sovereign country anymore, and the Democrats and the Republicans don't run it anymore.
What? Yeah.
Well, hallelujah. You're
Somebody's
waking up.
thinking. Yes, that's
You're
right.
waking up.
Yeah.
You're waking up.
But just like when I worked in the textiles, the WTO, the World Trade Organization, in the late 90s said the United States will be no more competitive in that area, and that's when Beacon shut down all that because they said there was no more.
Well, I had somebody the other day tell me something.
And everything.
I had somebody tell me something about Beacon, and they were so right. Where did
Yeah, I worked 30 years there.
where did textiles first start at?
It started up there in New England, really.
No, they started in England first.
Yeah.
The wool
And they came from England
in Scotland.
to New England. And then they left New England and came to the South. Why did they come to the South? Cheap labor.
They closed the cotton.
And
cotton.
cheap labor. And cheap labor. Didn't have to heat the buildings. Cheap labor. Then why did they go to Mexico?
Well, they said the same thing.
Cheap labor. Why did they go to China? Cheaper labor.
But here's the point. If you go to buy a piece of apparel at a store nowadays, 70% of it's diesel fuel. I know we worked at Beacon. We were actually making blankets cheaper and sending them to the store cheaper than they could bring them out of Pakistan or Mexico or anything else because the price of diesel fuel offset any gains they had on the labor. A lot of people don't understand that. They say, well, you got cheaper labor. That's true. But if that garment goes 40,000 miles, that's a lot of diesel fuel.
Well, let me tell you a little story about CTS.
Yeah.
Hate to keep talking about CTS, but since it's such a massive mess out there and nobody's cleaned it up,
Yeah.
not Burr, not Schuler, and let's see what Tim Moffitt does. And CTS shut their plant down and went to Mexico, kept their management team in Brownville, Texas, because they didn't want to live in Mexico, and they had to go across the border every day. And they constructed a compartment within the fender of this Ford station wagon to haul the gold over for the daily run of the switches, because if they had gold in the plant, it got stolen. They couldn't do anything about it. Also, Microswitch out at Mars Hill shut their plant down, started moving to Mexico. They had to send people from Microswitch and Mars Hill down to Mexico to teach people how to run the stuff, and they didn't have any engineers down there, so they still had to send engineers down there. So the truth is, if people looked at what they were saving, lots of times they're not saving what they think they would save. But I had an interesting discussion with a young man the other day while I was out getting my truck worked on. And his father was a maintenance man, and a maintenance man that had worked at Beacon when Owen left Beacon and started Charles D. Owen Company. And so bottom line is, he discussed with me that movement of the plant and why Charles D. Owen got bought out and shut down and sold. I think it's Springs Mills. And Springs Mills, the owner of Springs Mills is Erskine Bowles' wife.
Yeah, I know.
Now, you tell me that ain't a circle jerk and a incestuous little relationship with Erskine Bowles, when the deal that Springs had was buying out a plant down in Brazil, and then by buying out Owen Manufacturing, they got rid of the blanket manufacturer here. They already destroyed Beacon, got rid of the blanket manufacturer here, and now that they've got this free trade agreement, Springs owns the plant in Brazil.
Yeah, I know the people who work over there. And the worst of all, when Spring Maiden was bought it out, they're going to expand the Charlie Owens plant. They're going to build a new addition to it. They're going to do all this, and they backslidden with the Brazil. But back to Beacon again. We could actually Beacon, because we had everything under one roof. Plus we had on railhead. Plus it was close to access on I-40. Otherwise, it was a one big under roof operation. We could actually sell blankets cheaper to the stores than you could be in out of China or Mexico or Pakistan or anything else, because the diesel fuel offset whatever gains they made with cheap labor. I mean, that's a crazy thing to say, but that's what they told us. But the problem was, of all these trade deals in the world, WTO said no more American textiles, so the Democrats and Republicans was not going to challenge the World Trade Organization, so we got left in the rain.
Well, it's like I said, that NAFTA was started by Bush 1, implemented by Clinton. So I rest my case that it's not about party, it's about what's right or wrong. And guess who can determine what's right or wrong? We the people. That's why we've got to not get discouraged. That's why we've got to keep fighting. We've got to educate ourselves about it. Because just like tonight, we talked about some things in textiles people never thought of, I guarantee you. Thank you very much. Got another trying to get in. Hello.
Yeah, hi. I'm a first-time listener to your program.
Yes.
I just want to give you my perspective, and I'll just make it real short, about the illegal alien problem. I'm from South Texas. We actually moved 3 years ago to get away from that because of the drug, the crime, and also a lot of the businesses are using it in the city of San Antonio, the corporations, and that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people won't even talk about in San Antonio. So I hope North Carolina doesn't get that problem with the illegals and how they bankrupting the medical. Me and my wife were both nurses, and you wouldn't believe how many hospitals have closed down on the border, and that's not being reported in the news.
Well, guess what?
Yes, sir.
I got bad news for you. Unless the Republicans in Raleigh do something different, we have had an open door policy in North Carolina for illegals. They show up, they get their driver's license. We would accept as identification a phone bill, a electric bill, give them a driver's license, ask if they want to register to vote.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I didn't realize how bad it was, but I'll be honest with you, I don't know if you know the history of the Alamo and how Santana gave away Mexico, the lands, and we gave them $10 million back in, I think it was 1836 or so.
Yeah.
But the problem is that I still have a lot of friends from San Antonio that are Hispanic or Mexican American, but a lot of them are still bitter about losing their lands. And there's a lot of submissive groups like La Raza, La Puerta, and they're actually taking over. My brother-in-law lives in California. He's a nurse, traveling nurse, and you wouldn't believe how many things have changed over there. It's all in Spanish. Food aisles are nothing but Mexican food, which, I still eat and I enjoy. But they have changed the culture, the language, and the borders. And it's very upsetting. And the people I've met here, the Hispanics and I don't know if they're illegals, but they have been more kind and they are more humble than the ones in San Antonio. Because, again, I think it has to do with them feeling that
you know, we took their land and they want to spend the Alamo because it's,
Well, but maybe some of them, though,
disrespectful to their culture.
I really appreciate you calling in because San Antonio is near and dear to my